Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the new Mega 15S Field/Studio monitor from Osee. I'm going to be showing you in detail all the features this monitor offers, as well as talking about my experiences using it. For disclosure, Osee sent me this monitor in order to make this review, and I do get to keep it afterwards. However, this video isn't being sponsored by Osee, so they don't get to see this video before it's released or have any say in my review. With that said, let's crack on and have a look at what you get in the box. Inside the box you'll find a convenient padded bag. This doubles as a sun hood when the monitor is mounted to a C-stand. On the inside of the bag there's a couple of small pockets in which you'll find a mains power cable, a ratchet style lever clamp for the C-stand adapter, an accessory plate and various bolts. There's also a pair of feet that can be fitted to the base of the monitor if you plan on using it on a desk. My monitor didn't come with a UK plug, so I had to replace that. However, it's just a simple kettle style lead and it's not very long, so I probably would have changed that for a longer one anyway. The Mega 15S can be ordered with either a V-mount or AB mount adapter. This one came fitted with a V-mount adapter plate. I decided to fit the accessory plate on the top of my monitor so that I could use a Noga arm to attach a wireless receiver. If you plan on using the monitor on a desk, then you fit the included feet by sliding them into slots on the base and then securing them with included bolts. I'll be leaving the feet off because I want to use this as a field monitor and it won't fit in the supplied bag with the feet attached. With the tightening clamp/lever fitted to the monitor, it can now be mounted to a C-stand. The monitor itself is around 36.5 centimeters wide, 26 centimeters tall. It's around 16 centimeters deep with the C-stand adapter and its lever attached. The front bezel of the monitor is one of the few parts that are plastic. As well as surrounding the 15.4-inch screen, it also contains various ports and controls along the bottom. Starting on the left, there's a 3.5mm stereo headphone output, along with a USB Type-A port that's used for loading LUTs. Next along there's a group of 5 buttons. The first cycles between the input sources and the next 4 are function buttons allowing quick access to monitoring tools. Further along is a small joystick style encoder/controller that allows you to navigate the menus. As well as up, down, left and right controls, the controller can also be rotated left and right as well as pressed in to make selections. On the right side is a power button, power LED and a small speaker. The screen itself is a 1920 by 1200 10-bit display with a reported contrast ratio of 1650 to 1. I like that the monitor has that little extra bit of vertical resolution, meaning you can view 16 by 9 content and have some extra space above and below for additional information. Moving around the back, the main chassis of the monitor is all metal. This part of the monitor feels robust and professional. On the top edge is a folding carry handle. This is an all-metal construction and feels solid. The top and bottom of the main chassis have cooling vents, and as far as I can tell there's no fan in the monitor, so it doesn't make any noise on set. Around the chassis and on the back are 8 attachment points for the included accessory plate. On the left on the back there's 4 3G SDI ports, 2 in and 2 out, as well as an HDMI in capable of receiving signals up to 4K 30p. Below that, there's a USB-C port that can be used to calibrate the monitor with a suitable calibration tool. It's worth noting that there's no HDMI out available here, and there's a few limitations when using the HDMI in that I'll cover later in the video. In the middle is the V-mount adapter, which routes power via a D-tap to a 4-pin XLR style power input that accepts 11 to 17 volts. Below that is the main power connector and a power switch for when running on mains power. In terms of battery life, the Mega 15S is reported to use 22 watts of power. I tested this using a SmallRig VB99 V-mount battery, and on full brightness it ran for around 2 hours and 45 minutes. Obviously if you reduce that brightness, the battery will last longer. For this demo I set up a test shot with my Sony FX3 and we're using Vaxis Atom A5s to act as a wireless video system. I'm using the A5 SDI attached to the accessory plate and connecting it via SDI. Osee advertised that the Mega 15S uses something called DBEF, which uses polarization to redirect unused light from behind the dark areas of the display to improve the overall contrast and brightness. I don't have the tools required to give any specific measurements on this, but I can say that the display does look very contrasty with deeper blacks than I've seen on any of my other monitors. The monitor has a reported brightness of 1500 nits, which makes it usable in daylight. The screen itself has an anti-reflection surface, which helps with this. However, I do prefer having it in the bag, as this not only protects the monitor from the elements a little, but also allows it to be set up with the built-in sun hood, which really helps with isolating the screen from external light sources and reflections. You access the main menu by pushing down on the mini joystick. From there you can adjust the volume level for the headphone port or built-in speaker, and adjust the backlight level of the display. In the middle is access to the main settings for the monitor, and as you can see there are a lot of options in here. You can select input source as well as control volume and backlight brightness. You can adjust display rotation with options for 180-degree rotate as well as image mirroring. Probe location allows you to choose if you want to have metering levels taken before or after any LUT that's being applied, which is a feature I really like. Status display shows information at the top of the screen. This can be set to off, battery level only, or on. With this set to on, you can see the input source and resolution, the signal type, which display set you're using, and the battery level of the monitor. In the camera profile section, you can choose the signal range from 64 to 940 or 0 to 1023. This can also be set to auto. You can also adjust the input matrix between Rec 601, Rec 709 and Rec 2020, as well as auto. Signal format can be set for a wide range of options in both 10-bit or 12-bit. Or again, you can have this set automatically. Color management allows you to define specific color handling for different manufacturers and standards, including EBU, DCI, ARRI, Blackmagic, Canon, Fuji, Nikon, Panasonic, Red, and Sony. Finally, in the camera section, you can load user LUTs. LUTs are loaded via the USB-A port on the front of the monitor. You can store up to 10 LUTs on the monitor, and loading them from USB is a simple process. Next down we have the system setup. Monitor info shows various information about the monitor, and the next option allows you to change the language. The advanced setup option allows you to restore the monitor to factory settings, enable factory management, and run a color calibration if you have the required calibration tool. There's an option to display or hide the help screens that come up when switching on the monitor. And finally an option to define which of the tool positions you want to apply to each of the 4 function buttons on the front of the monitor. We'll look at that in more detail in a moment. When menus are closed, you can press up on the mini joystick to zoom into the image. This steps through 2 times and 4 times zoom. Going back to the main system menu, we also have the option to add and remove what Osee call MySets. These sets allow you to assign up to 8 different tools for that set, and each one remembers which of the assigned tools are enabled and its settings. So let's create a new set here, and I'll show you all the tools that are available. I'll go into the main menu by pressing the joystick down. I'll choose to add a new set and then confirm it. One thing I've noticed here is that after creating a new set, it appears to still be populated with the tools from the previous set. Notice at the top here it says MySets3, however we can still see the multi-tools on the display. However, if I now click left to go back to MySets2 and then right again to go back to MySets3, then you can see that this set is actually empty. Now we're in the set, I can add a tool by pressing in on the joystick. Now if I press right, I can see all the tools I can choose from. Let's start with the framing tools. I'll add each of them to this set. First there's aspect, then we'll add safe, center, crosshatch, and anamorphic. Now we have a set with all the framing tools. You can scroll up and down the list by either pressing up and down with the joystick or by rotating it. You can then press in again on each tool to activate or deactivate it. So let's have a look at each of these framing tools. Aspect allows you to show an aspect ratio mask with many common options available. If you need something that's not listed here, then you can also dial in a custom aspect ratio. You can also choose between 3 levels of transparency for the mask. Next, let's look at Safe Zone. This doesn't have anything in the way of customization, but you can enable and disable the action and title safe zones individually. Center cross is just that, with 2 different styles of center cross. Crosshatch displays grids with options from the typical 2x2 up to 9x9. Finally, in the framing section, we have anamorphic D-squeeze with a wide range of ratio settings. There's also the ability to magnify to punch into the image. It's good to see that applying a grid on top of the anamorphic does take into account the anamorphic D-squeeze as well. And as you can see, it's possible to apply multiple tools at the same time, and they do all seem to work well together. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new set, and this time I'm going to add all the exposure tools. In here we'll add false color, zebra, waveform, vector, and histogram. Let's start by looking at false color. In here we have 3 style options. Follow camera, which presumably uses the camera settings in the menu. Then there's spectrum, which shows a full spectrum of color. And custom, that allows you to define the IRE settings for each color. I love how the range is clearly defined at the bottom of the screen without interfering with the image. This is a direct result of the 1920 by 1200 screen having room for information to be displayed below a full width 16 by 9 image. I absolutely love the fact that you can define false color in detail on this monitor. What I'm going to do is go into the custom settings and define the green to be 46 to 50% for middle grey and the pink to be 58 to 62% for skin tones. This is all with the FX3 shooting in Cine EI and sending out the HDMI signal including the S709 LUT. With these custom settings I can use false colour knowing that I can use the pink and green areas to set exposure correctly. The zebras offer 2 levels and the minimum and maximum IRE values can be set individually. Much like with the false colour, this is well implemented with a bar at the bottom showing where each of the 2 zones sit, with black for the lower zone and blue for the higher zone. Waveforms are available in 3 styles. We've got the Luma waveform, Parade and RGB. These can be set to 3 sizes, with the smaller size being able to be positioned in any of the 4 corners. The density of the waveform can be adjusted along with 3 levels of transparency. The vector scope is large and clear and can also be positioned in any corner of the screen. There's 2 levels of gain available and the density and transparency of the scope can be adjusted. The histogram can be set to either Luma or RGB, and as with the previous options can be positioned in any corner and have the transparency adjusted between 3 settings. You can use multiples of these at the same time, however you will need to position each of them differently so that they're in a different corner of the screen. I'll add another MySet, and this time we'll take a look at the remaining tools. For focusing we can add focus assist and peaking. I think Osee may have labelled these incorrectly, as the focus assist tool acts like peaking and can be set to red, white, green or blue with the sensitivity adjustable, and the background can be set as either colour or black and white. The peaking tool, on the other hand, is a sharpening based focus assist tool. Let's add the remaining tools to this set. We'll add D-Log, User LUT, multi-scopes, audiometers, and timecode. The D-Log tool is a quick way of making log footage look more like Rec. 709 without having to apply a specific LUT. It has options for both SDR and HDR signals. With the User LUT tool, you can choose between any of the LUTs that are installed on the monitor. This tool also offers the ability to set the intensity of the LUT. The Multiscopes tool is really useful. It's a quick way of viewing a wide waveform along the bottom of the screen, along with a vector scope, histogram and audiometer over on the right. The source image is reduced in size so that none of the tools overlay the image, keeping it free for framing. The tools can all be set up in the same way as their individual counterparts with this combined tool. The audiometer is nice and clear with easy to read dB markings from -60 to 0. The meter can be positioned either bottom left or bottom right. Its transparency can be adjusted, and it can also be set up to monitor specific channel pairs from 1 and 2 up to 15 and 16. One important note with the audiometer is that it doesn't work when using the HDMI input. It only works on the SDI inputs. This might be an important consideration if you're planning on only working with an HDMI setup. Finally, we have a tool that displays timecode with an option to set transparency to 4 levels. As with the audiometer, this only works with SDI though, and it will be greyed out if using the HDMI input. Once you've added your chosen tools to each set, you then have quick access to 4 of those tools by using the function buttons on the front of the monitor. The first press of one of the function buttons brings up the menu, and then you can toggle each tool on and off using the buttons. So as you can see, the combination of multiple sets with the ability to define up to 8 different tools on each set really makes the Mega 15S super flexible when it comes to creating and storing a setup that works for you in different situations. Fitting the monitor back in the bag can be a little tricky. I found the best way is to pull up on the straps at the bottom of the bag and then place the bottom of the monitor in that part first. With that done, you need to grab the snaps from the top part of the bag, pull them out the way, and then let the top part of the monitor drop into place. After connecting the snaps, the back of the bag can be zipped up, and then the monitor is well protected in the bag for transport. The base of the bag has a metal opening to allow a C-stand to be pushed through it so that the monitor can be mounted whilst in the bag. To do this, it's best to open the back of the bag first, as you can then access the clamp and feed the spigot on the stand into place before tightening the clamp. After unzipping the back, you can use the flap inside the case to support the back of the bag. You can of course also let it hang down, but you'll want to make sure there's nothing important in the pockets before doing that. One thing I found here was that it's a lot easier to use an actual C-stand and not something like a photography light stand. Many photography light stands have a flat area part way down on the spigot that makes it really hard to get through the case. Proper C-stands have a different shaped spigot that will drop straight in. I'm using these C-stands from Newer, which work great. The Newer stands are reasonably priced yet very solid. I'll post some links for these down in the description. With the monitor on a C-stand, you can open up the front of the bag, which folds out to form a large sun hood. The sun hood does restrict viewing angles a little, but it's so nice having the monitor deep inside the sun hood protected from any outside light interference. I was recently hired as DP on a shoot to produce a video for an online poker company. I wasn't able to capture any behind the scenes footage at that shoot as it was a busy day. However, the director, producer and the end client were all glued to the Mega 15S through both exterior and interior filming. What quickly became obvious was how small things in the scene were easily spotted and then adjusted because of the bigger monitor. I also used the Mega 15S on a recent drone shoot for Wildken Hill in Norfolk. We were flying the Inspire 2 with dual operators and connected the monitor to the camera operator's controller via HDMI. This was outside on a really bright day, and it allowed the camera operator to see a lot more detail than he normally would have done using the iPad that's attached to the remote. In terms of pricing, the Mega 15S is currently retailing for around $950 US, including the bag and the V-mount adapter. The quality of the image is better than any production monitor I've used to date. It's bright, contrasty, and while the colours are vibrant, they remain accurate, providing a true representation of the recorded image. Feature-wise, it's excellent. I love the way the tools can be organised into sets, allowing you to quickly switch between them depending on what you're shooting. That's made even more useful by each set remembering the settings for each tool. I especially like the way Osee allow customization with the tools. The ability to define custom zones with false colour is fantastic, and I really wish other monitor manufacturers would take note of that. The included bag works really well too. It can be a little cumbersome if working in tight spaces, but it makes using the monitor outdoors so much better and offers protection when in transport. It's a shame the audio meter and timecode tools don't work when using HDMI. Audio can be heard when using the HDMI input, so maybe that's something that Osee can look at in a future firmware update. The Mega 15S has proved to be fantastic as a director/client monitor, but I have to say that I will also be using it as a general production monitor whenever I can. It's compact enough that I'll be able to take it along to any sit-down interviews or other setups where I don't need to be moving around, and it really does give you a much clearer picture of what you're filming. I think I'll call it there for this review. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, then please leave a comment. I do try to reply to every question and will gladly help if I can. Thanks loads for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.